Good afternoon, everyone. It's Louise here from Eleanor Grace. I thought I would just do another couching video for you, as promised, here on my autumn part of my latest snippet roll from the stitch along that we're just sort of finishing. I've done a sort of coiled circle of couching here, and I've been looking into it a bit more, and there are actually different types of this that you can do. So I thought I'll just tell you what I've done and give you a brief demonstration and a few examples. So in this case, what I did is I actually plaited 3 threads of the same cotton perlé, which comes up as a thicker sort of thread. So I've done it here on a cotton perlé 12, which is obviously finer. As you can see, I've got 3 different colour threads there. I've made a series of these, and I thought I am going to use them. I will perhaps do a little video for how I made this. Very, very simple. Just literally having something. I have a little lap thing that I use to do my stitching, and that my mum made me. And what I did was pin this knot in place here, and then 3 threads, just literally plaited it and knotted the end. So very, very simple. But what I did here is do it with the same thread, so it's 3 threads of that. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see closely, you can see that it's plaited. So I thought I would just show you this. So couching circles wasn't particularly something that I had been really aware of. I know there are many different types of couching, but it had escaped me, so I had a look into it. And there are 2 sort of main types, and inadvertently here I've done what they call a bricking stitch. So that's where all of the couching stitches that you're holding the thread down with, in this case, holding down the orange thread, are done offset to each other. And I did sort of try to do that with this one. Now, as you know, if you've watched my channel before, you will know I am a bit of a rebel, and slow stitching to me means that you can throw out the embroidery workbook a little bit and the rules, and I don't want to get overcomplicated on doing things, because you lose the meditative benefits then. So what I did here is just sort of did it freehand, just by sight really, and I did try wherever possible to offset against the previous row, and apparently that's called bricking. So I know about brick stitch, which gives a similar effect. So yes, I've done a couple more examples just to show you. So here I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I have 2 different examples. Now you can't see this particularly well because I've unfortunately used the same colour thread as I have within the piece, but let me zoom in a bit more. Here you can see I've done the other type. This is called radial or radiating spikes. So as you can see, I'm coming over at the same point several places around the stitch. I quite like the neatness of this, but as I've said, being a little bit of a rebel, I do think it takes a lot more concentration, and I think you lose that meditative benefit, but I think it looks great. Whereas I haven't been, I'd say, 100% with this, I did try wherever possible to stick to the same sort of lines, so you get these radiating stitches coming out as if it's in one stitch, but it isn't. It's each row that you're wrapping, you're stitching in the same place. This one, again, I've gone for a more formal version of the bricking stitch, so I've made sure I've gone alternating between the previous row stitches wherever possible, and this was using a little bit of Norro, lovely Norro yarn. If anyone is, I've mentioned it before, if anyone's familiar with it, it's really sort of slubby, and some of it's thick and some of it's thin. What I did is I twisted it as I went, so it was a little bit hard going, this one, but I'm going to show you one using something a little bit easier. I'm going to go for another one of these plaited threads. So this one is very fine. This is a 3 thread of cotton perlé 12. So as I say, I've just done a knot at at the top, and then I've plaited it down to a certain point. And again, perfection here is not a requirement. So I'm going to go over it in red just to give you a real contrast. So because this was a thick Norrow piece, I did that in cotton perlé 12 over the top because it was thicker and it held it down a bit better. This was obviously 3 pieces of like this cotton perlé 12, so I went over it in the cotton perlé 12 just so it didn't look too thick, the stitches over the top. So I'm going to replicate that again here. It's the same process for each. If you've got a single piece of something thick like the Norrow or other bits of lovely thread yarn that you've got going, then what I would say to start off with is that you want to fix the centre of where you want to start. I'd say you need to do this with any of these circles. You need to work out where the centre is going to be as you're laying it onto your piece. So for instance, this one, I may have the centre being here, but I'm going to lay the thread so you've got a bit here you're going to cut off later, because I want to make sure I capture that that piece. So I will show you with the slightly thinner one, but I hope you'll still be able to see it okay. It is definitely easier to work turning your work as you go. So you might have to bear with me in terms of the camera angles here, because it is harder to do it with the camera on top, but I will give it a go. As you can see, I've got a rather sort of messy knot here, but I'm not going to worry about that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to capture the thread just before the knot, and then I'm going to capture the thread just after the knot. So I'm working out my centre is about where this knot is. So I'm just going to do a first stitch, and as I say, this is just going to be done in a very bright colour. Now, what I tend to do, and I don't know whether it is correct, is I always go from the same direction. So if I've gone, I tend to go from the outside in. I think that makes it easier to control. And what you want to remember, like I did on the previous video, is that you want this to be quite tight. So you don't want to make your stitch too big and come down sort of here. You want to have it almost tucking underneath, almost going back out the same hole, certainly for the initial stitches. And then you want to make sure that's nice and tight. And I'm going to do one more little stitch around here. As I can say, this knot is very messy, so this is not going to look absolutely beautiful, but then perfection, as we've said many times, is not a requirement in slow stitching. So I've attached that, so I feel quite comfortable that I can do a little bit of a trim, and I've got my scissors in the wrong place, so let's just get those, and just going to trim those ends off. Just, you've still got a little bit of give there. You've still got a little bit of the end here, but that's going to be covered as we go around. So as we start to go around, you're sort of working on top of and behind at the same time. So let's just turn this. So I always find it's quite, makes it a little bit easier to, as I'm left-handed, you might find the opposite if you're right-handed. I like to have where I'm going to stitch just about sort of 12 to 3 o'clock. Anywhere around there sort of feels comfortable for me. So you may find the opposite if you're right-handed. You may be going in the circle the other way, but this feels natural to me. So each time I'm coming out from the outside in and just perhaps slightly underneath, and that gives you a nice secure thing. And I'm turning as I go and I'm wrapping. So the first few turns you do turn it quite a lot, and then as it radiates out into the later stitches, you realize you're not turning it quite so much as the piece gets bigger. But this is a short piece of thread, so it's not going to take forever to get there. So I'm doing my next one here. So usually when you get to, I've got this slightly messy knot here, so I'm having to go in slightly at an angle there. So when you've done what looks like the first proper round, I've done slightly messy stitches here, but again, I'm not going to worry about it. I shall do a stitch here, and then I'm going to try and offset against the previous stitches, so you can see that I have this stitch which was here, and I'm going to try and come in between that and the next stitch. So I'm going to come around here to make that bricking stitch, which I rather like. It's like bricks laid on top of each other, you know, they're always offset, aren't they? So again here, I'm going to come round, turn it a little bit, and I'm going to come in between these two stitches here to give that effect. This is not the neatest work I've ever produced, but then I'm not too worried. And then we keep going round, and again I'm going to come in between there, get hold of that. I'm running a little bit short on thread. I should have made a longer piece there. So let's go again in between. So I'm coming up in between the two stitches on the previous row to get that bricking effect. And then as we go round, I'm aiming again to come in between these two stitches here on the previous round. So that's how it goes, and you keep going round until you're finished. So the end stitch for me is just like the start, really, especially if you've done a plaited piece like this. Just going to get round to the end, shouldn't be too far off, and hopefully I won't completely run out of thread. It's getting close. I think I might just make it. Here we go. So there we go, and I think I'm actually going to get a little bit more thread. I think I make my life too difficult if I do that. So let's just tie that off. And that's a good thing. If you do run out of thread with something like this, it doesn't matter if you've got partway through. But I would say you probably want at least a 12-inch piece. And I think this little piece of red was just slightly less than that. Okay, so I'm going to reattach some more thread. Again, I'm going to come up in between the stitches there, turning to make life easier, coming in between. There we are, and you can see that sort of brick effect with the offset stitches. Turning again, and we're very near the end now. I've got this couple more stitches to do by the look of it. So again, I'm coming up in between the last two rounds. I think there'll be one more before the knot. So I'm just going to come in slightly. That's a little bit too far out. There we go. And so one here. Now this is a bit of a chunky knot. It's because I've got 3 pieces of thread together, so it's going to appear a little bit chunky. I could even really chop that off. It wouldn't make too much. I'm not going to worry too much. I'm only doing this as a experiment, and I have done it previously here, and that was a little bit of a smaller, tidier knot, so it did look a bit better. So I'm just going to do one stitch after the knot just to get that secure. So straight after the knot, stitch that last one down, and before I'm going to tie it off before I cut the ends off, just to make sure that it is secure. So I'm going to do a double knot, because this is, I've realized actually this is crochet cotton, not cotton pearl 12, so it's even thinner than cotton pearl 12. But a couple of knots at the back there and we're fine. And then just need to chop the ends off. So I'm going to sort of bring them back on themselves and just chop them sort of fairly near to the knot, but leave a little tiny little tail there. And that's it. So that is, I mean, that's the same way of doing it with a piece of wool, or as I say, doing it with something you've plaited, whether it's cotton pearl 12 like these. I made a load of these, and I thought I was going to use them just for couching as they are, which I will do, because I think they're quite cute. But also I thought it was quite nice to do something different, and I do like the couch circle. I think it looks quite nice, and if it's in different colours it can look quite dramatic. The colours aren't coming out quite so well. We've got a little bit overcast here despite the nice weather today. But you can get the idea. You can either do these as the radiating spikes like I've done here, where they all go from the same direction, or you can do it offset in a brick stitch, which is really nice. So I will do another one of these videos in a couple of weeks. What I've also got to tell you while I'm here, and I shall put my other one there for you to have a look at, is that I'm going to be announcing the next stitch along very shortly. I'm going to be announcing it next weekend. I gave you a clue on the previous video that I did, which was one of the last stitch along ones from the snippet rolls, and I'm going to give a couple more clues this week. The clue I gave last time was you could get everything together from your stash. You could beg, steal or borrow, and I'm going to give another clue on this video, and then a couple more in the week, because this is a sort of multi-layered stitch along. It is about making something quite simple, but with a twist, and in fact with two twists, shall we say. So what I will say is it's something for all seasons. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I won't give too much away. Something for all seasons, shall we say. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you might give a little go at doing some couched circles somewhere in your work at some point. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the weekend. I know for our Antipodean friends, it's probably Monday morning by the time you see this, and I hope you're all okay. For those in the sort of Gold Coast area and any of those who have been affected by the cyclone. I know it's been downgraded in the last day or so, but you know, we have all been thinking of you, and do hope you're all keeping safe. And yeah, looking forward to getting another video out to you next weekend, and I will be releasing all the information about the next stitch along next weekend, and we will start officially obviously in April, because it's a quarterly project, April to June. And it will be about probably 8 or 9 weeks long, so it's going to be probably more or less the length that we've done for the stitch along now. It depends how we go. We might get through it in about 8 weeks, you never know. And yeah, I hope you look forward to another project, And, you know, if you're on the group, if you haven't already joined, please do. Facebook group is Slow Stitching by Hand with Eleanor Grace, which is me, Louise, named after my cats. And if you do join, please do answer the questions, because otherwise the system thinks you're a bot and it doesn't let you in. So please do answer the questions, and even just a short thing will be fine. And yeah, look forward to perhaps dropping a few more hints in the next few days. And yes, look after yourselves and take care. Bye.